Episode 3. We're calling this one A Cracked Mirror. Now, there is a whole big mystery as to human beings, why we are here and what we are. And Genesis 1:27 starts it off by saying that God has created us in his own image. So, what does that mean, practically speaking? Um, Now, I've heard a number of explanations. But the one that makes the most sense to me is that we are like little mirrors that reflect many aspects of God. For instance, as God is the truth, we can be truthful, living with honesty and integrity, and we can reason, use logic, and have objective thoughts. So that's one way we can kind of mirror God. Now, as God is the ground and source of morality, we can know the difference between right and wrong, good and evil. And as God is unlimited, he has given us free will and the ability to make choices. And as God is a spirit who exists beyond space and time, there's a part of us that exists beyond a physical body. We are flesh, but also mind, and then beyond that, spirit. Now, as God is the creator, he has given us intelligence, imagination, and the ability to create art, stories, build things, uh, be very creative. Um, as he is the sustainer of all reality, he has actually commissioned us to care for the scope of creation that was within our power to do so. That's why we're supposed to be responsible stewards of nature and what he's given us. And as God is goodness personified, he gives us the ability to think, say, and do good. And as God is love personified, we have the ability to love and be loved. And we can show mercy and act with compassion just like he does. And then finally, as God is just, we also have the capacity to seek and establish justice, and we mirror his justice. And we are passionate about fairness for all. So, in many ways, all human beings cannot help that there are aspects of who they are at their core that points back to the reality that there is a God and gives glimpses of what he's like. So, as a result of being these image bearers of God, there's two big implications for us. First, there's a basis for human rights, because that means that all people have inherent worth. And secondly, it's a call to action. When we recognize the value and dignity of every human being, we are actually obeying God's command to treat everyone with respect and kindness, to love all people, even those who oppose us. There is a problem with our little mirrors, however. We are all, without exception, damaged by sin. We actually have a bent in us towards disobeying God's laws and towards failing to keep his perfect standards. And this is related to both us committing wrongful acts or failing to do correct ones, to right things. And we can sin not only by our actions, but also in our thoughts, our words, and even our desires when they are contrary to God's will. That was a little glitch. So, as I was saying, sin corrupts every part of our being, our mind, our will, and emotions, to the point that we are actually unable to choose to follow God or seek his salvation on our own. Now, we're not as wicked as we could be, not like totally evil to the max, but there's no part of us that is unaffected by sin. We don't lack a conscience or are incapable of morality in a limited, imperfect sense. And there is also not a total lack of goodness. While we are not capable of doing anything to save ourselves from our own sins, we can still perform acts that are morally good. So we're these little broken mirrors, and sin has damaged every area of our lives. So is there anything we can do about it? In one sense, no. It's impossible on our own. In another way, though, there is the wonderful news of the gospel that God, this great and loving artist who has made and sustains us, he has actually gone to the ultimate lengths to rescue us from this terminal disease of sin. He stepped out of eternity and became a man who kept his holy law perfectly. And then he became our substitute and died a horrible death to pay for the sins of all humanity. He came to life again 3 days later to offer us rescue from the consequences that we deserve and to help usher us into a whole new way of life. And his good actions on our behalf, when we believe in him and trust him to save us, they make a huge difference here and now, and in here and now in this life, but they also have positive benefits on into eternity. Um, there's a really good quote I like from C.S. Lewis that helps show very well the spiritual reality of what's happening with us image bearers here in this life. Um, it's from an essay he wrote called The Weight of Glory. And this is how it goes. It is a serious thing to live in a society of possible gods and goddesses, to remember that the dullest, most uninteresting person you can talk to may one day be a creature which, if you saw it now, you would be strongly tempted to worship, or else a horror and a corruption such as you now meet, if at all, only in a nightmare. All day long, we are in some degree helping each other to one or the other of these destinations. It is in the light of these overwhelming possibilities, it is with the awe and the circumspection proper to them, that we should conduct all of our dealings with one another, all friendships, all loves, all play, all politics. There are no ordinary people. We have never talked to a mere mortal. Nations, cultures, arts, civilizations, these are mortal, and their life is to ours as the life of a nap. But it is to immortals whom we joke with, work with, marry, snub, and exploit, immortal horrors or everlasting splendors. So, in light of that quote, what we do really matters. We live amongst imperfect embodied spirits who are either on the road to a future that is wonderful beyond our greatest imaginings or more terrible than any of our worst nightmares. So if you consider yourself a follower of Jesus Christ, pray for courage to love boldly and to look for opportunities to share the fantastic news of the gospel that we have a mighty God whose unstoppable love is stronger than all the mistakes, selfish, and darkness within us. And he has provided a way of rescue. Not only that, he gives us a doorway into a whole new way of being. Thanks for listening. God bless you.